take me to the Yellow Shore.
You know that's impossible.
I must witness it.
What happens next is for me, not you.
I must know where the path leads.
No.
Someday I'll take the time to RMA this thing. I clearly got a defective unit.
Walker's gone. He stayed calm, even in our darkest hours. But whatever got him, whatever made him leave, it was something else. Just sadness. Bottomless sadness. The blue precipice. That's what he called it.
only one bullet when instant kill activates. Which is like when you first play, it's a really good impression. Then the longer you play, it gets worse. So maybe if you were reviewing this and you didn't get all the way through, you may think that this is the better game. I was going back and playing the earlier levels before they made you look at everything, with this yellow filter. Those are actually pretty interesting. I mean, they're a little on the easy side. I thought they were more well balanced. I'm not getting these.
What can you tell me of the Yellow Shore?
That's not your concern. I'm just here to gear up.
Please. Arjun. I wish to follow your path.
This isn't about some path. It's about a promise. It's about saving someone.
You walk the King's path.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You are called. Why do you deny it?
I don't know what's going on with you. Just don't get in my way.
Missing three. I'm not missing so many of these. I don't even get it. Here, there's a bunch of halcyon that I miss. I wish you could turn off the yellow filter. It kind of makes the game a little visually boring. Without the yellow filter, these things sound pretty good. developers are obsessed with this book. Why? How are you all partners in book club? Somebody sell Xbox. That'd be a difficult sell, right? Because it's a very expensive division. Like, who could possibly buy it? Right, it's like the rumors that EA was selling, or was going to sell. It was like, man, they just spend so much money. I just don't know who could finance it. Not even the Saudis are spending money. They bought SK, they bought a bunch of game divisions. The Saudi government. And it really didn't pan out for them. No actually money. We made no real money doing it. I think that stems from a statement from some business analyst, but I think it was like a bit of a misinterpretation of them talking about the restructuring versus selling. I think quite ready to sell yet, you know. They have some money to lose still. Of course, you know, there was going to be trouble when they just kept buying all these has-been studios. I was like, yeah, let's buy the studio that has never really been very popular and have them make games for us. And lo and behold, they don't make popular games. They don't sell particularly well. When I read they bought Double Fine, I'm like, why? Why would you buy Double Fine? I think the biggest thing they really screwed up on was buying Activision. I think that's like. That's a legendary, you know, facepalm. Because that is not going to work out for them. Yeah, well, they bought too many, and then they bought, like, the wrong companies, too. It's one thing to buy up a bunch of developers. It's another thing to buy developers that don't really matter. But the big hit for them is Activision. And Activision is starting to head and bleed money. So, kind of, I guess it made sense to buy them when they're at the market. know, that was just like, it's like they got the go-ahead to buy all these companies, and they were just like irresponsible teenagers, you know, just buying, you know, buying all the wrong things. Irresponsible team just kind of, yeah, it's kind of like the definition of Microsoft, modern Microsoft, or Xbox. Yeah, Bethesda's a weird one, right? It's like, yeah, they make Elder Scrolls, which is super popular when it comes out, but it doesn't come out that often. Space Elder Scrolls, that was just like one underwhelming mistake after another. I mean, of course, nobody could have predicted that they would fuck up that formula. But still. I think the worst thing is like the best parts Bethesda don't really sell. Arcade Studios doesn't really sell. I personally love their games. Well, I also realize that they're not really good enough to be worth buying. Most gamers' eyes. You can only sell so many people on Dishonored. Yeah, Starfield was just rad. Starfield was like we wanted it to be Space Elder Scrolls, and it was not that. Plus, it also sort of showed like how terrible that creation engine is. That Bethesda engine. Like all of a sudden you're trying to do much better visuals and like all the animation models are still janky. All the conversation trees are still a little silly. Voice acting's still robotic. And then for being able to explore space would be very limited. I mean, I stopped playing too. I thought I was going to play that game for years. No, I played the game for like a week. I think even less than a week. Yeah, I have heard that they are trying to migrate to Unreal Engine. But who knows when that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, that creation engine served them for a long time, but it is time to put it away. Just not able to do the things that modern games need to do. They're not able to pull a Nintendo, right? Nintendo still uses that old Ocarina of Time engine. But they've changed it so much over the years that they've actually made new game types out of that. It seems like Bethesda can do that. That's an absolutely monstrous development. Hundreds of people that put Bethesda. Many continents. bad id is in there, you know. I feel bad for id. They're making these awesome Doom games. I'm stuck up with the best of it. Of course, there was a while when they weren't making Doom games, but they learned their lessons. Some of these companies really do have to fail. People can't save them. You know, they just fail and they have to be broken up and do other things. That, I guess. That was close enough. Is something that's not that Dragon Age. Yeah, I haven't played Dragon Age. I haven't played that one. One of the streamers that I watch plays it. Seems okay, but kind of lost interest in Dragon Age after 2. That first Dragon Age was awesome. For its time. I don't know if I can play it again. But at the time, it was really cool. I mean, there's Baldur's Gate, though. I mean, if you want that kind of game, Baldur's Gate is available, and it's kind of like the better series at this point. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I got nothing to play. I don't need to play another long-ass fantasy RPG outside of Final Fantasy. Even then, I'm not. Whatever Final Fantasy is next, it better not be the action game. So I won't play that. Like the ex-Devil May Cry guy make your Devil May Cry Final Fantasy game and then not have it be very good. That's why he was an ex-Devil May Cry guy. Yeah, I mean, Baldur's Gate is a little too tied to D&D. So they are trying to make it feel like a pen and paper RPG, which I don't necessarily love that decision. But the game itself is, kind of, it's better than that, right? It manages to be better than that. It still give you that pen and paper feel. That's the thing as well. Yeah, I mean, I also grew up on old RPGs. I mean, obviously, I'm an old man, right? So, I mean, I grew up on text RPGs. Ogban, Zork. But I don't miss Zork. I don't miss that kind of RPG. But, I mean, there's other people that do. They want to make an RPG that feels like old school D&D, First edition, second edition D&D. I don't really need that in my life. I mean, I get it.
Become my
It's just
king.
not the thing that
Take your rightful place.
I wouldn't make a new game, release it in 2026 or 2028. Be like, see, this is just like when you were 13. Yeah, but I'm way older than 13 now. I do have like different desires. I also had a lot more free time when I was 13. I don't know if I want to do all those same things anymore. Chance. All that. I think he has 3 phases, and I get 1 chance at that. And they barely upgrade your health. All the time you play, I think you might get like 1 health upgrade during that entire level.
You proceed onward after so many have perished. How do you survive?
I don't know, but something keeps bringing me back after I die.
Where has this path taken you? What have you discovered?
No, it's not like that. But it started when I got here.
Could it be a gift from Yellow? The shore guiding you?
Chances all it takes. I don't know. Ask anybody's wife that. It's weird too, it's been kind of a dead time for games. Yeah, look at some of the new releases that are out. I don't think I'm really super keen on playing all the new releases in the last 3 weeks. boss once in this hour. Got like 2 households.
I found out about Echelon too. They were enslaved by the creatures here.
They were meant to build this world. But for Soltari, not them.
It's thousands of lives, Primary.
We are all numbers in someone's ledger.
Soltari's ledger. But not in mine.
They are lost. Focus on the path ahead.
I need one more. So stupid. It's so expensive. Yeah, I mean, this is the last time we're gonna play. I mean, we'll just look up the ending on YouTube, the true ending. Yeah, I mean, this is too much, you know. I really thought they screwed up the end. They screwed up the end game. The beginning part of the game is at least with a really good impression. But this end game just absolutely sucks. And this wasn't true of Returnal. Returnal was much better at the end game. So it's not like these guys don't know what they're doing, but I don't know. So I'm trying to get to the end, but you can only play the same level over and over again for so long, right?
You have encountered someone from Echelon 3. The data from the colony was an error.
Correct.
Ensure his survival. He is an invaluable source of planetary data.
Well, I just have other games to play. Like, just this seems like kind of a waste of time. I don't mind if a game's like really challenging. I played like a ton of those games on this channel. But they do have to kind of come to an end. And you have to feel that you made progress. I've seen this level so many times that it does not feel like progress. It seems like some runs are just, like it's just luck, right? That's skill based game. I have to get like a lucky room. I didn't have to get a lucky drop on my weapon. None of that has to have anything to do with whether or not I'm good at it. Like, you know, Neo 3, I just really not good at it, right? So I had to play levels to memorize it. But once I memorized it, then you know I could beat something. Right? I could eventually make my way to the end. This game, it really doesn't matter how much you memorize. It gets screwed sometimes. It's totally out of your control. I really want to love the game. I just don't. things I love. Give me a better weapon. Have my suit upgrades mean something. Like, I'm not doing any more damage. Like, I just took an upgrade to give myself plus 5 more power. But I'm not doing any more damage. Enemies aren't dying faster. So what was the point? Single hit point wins. It's not really that uncommon to just win by like 1 or 2 hit points. PlayStation and my Xbox library. It's like, why don't I have this game on these 2 systems too? I guess it must have been offered free at some point in time. Part of those subscription services. Like, I know this game on like every system for some reason. I don't consider myself that big of a computer. Somehow I have enough of a collection. we've seen this. Over and over we've seen this. Other bullet hell game that I was playing that was way easier is maybe we'll get back to that one. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But that one seemed to have a lot more potential. And it's not out to get me, screwing me over with this difficulty. Well, I wouldn't even say this game has a problem with difficulty. We got a problem. Skill trees meeting up. Anything good? Anything? Weapon it wants to give you and all these an option to get rid of the yellow filter too. This game looks much better without it. I know it's part of the story and all, but sometimes you have to make a decision on whether or not the little story element is important enough to ruin your graphics. I mean, is it really that important to see the yellow filter? I think it is. Looks more red to me though. money you could get at the end of that game. Yeah, there's no particular system. It's a app game. It's come to this. I think I've given that game a pretty fair shake, you know. Well, I kind of hate to click on GameSpot. That isn't like a shitty company. Was it 19 minutes long? Oh, Jesus Christ. This guy is 33 minutes long. It's like 33 minutes long, 33 minutes to cover this story. Seems like an awful long time.
Pancakes topped with mint ice cream.
New Masters of the Universe menu at Denny's and see Masters of the Universe only in theaters.
After beating the game, playing through its secret ending, acquiring all of its text and audio logs, and dissecting every entry in its databank, I think I've pieced together what is actually happening in Saros. Much like the core of its story, it's hard to know where to begin in trying to clarify what is happening in the game, but I've ultimately settled on first explaining the nuts and bolts of the plot in a chronological order, as much as that is possible, and then pointing to all the evidence we have that completely upends that narrative entirely, as well as my own theory as to the reality the characters of Saros exist within. Arjun Devraj and Nitya Chandran have known each other since childhood, growing up in a near future where corporations govern the Earth, and through said corporations, humanity's grasp has extended to other worlds. The largest corporation in the solar system is Soltari, which has recently discovered a faraway planet it has dubbed Carcosa. Carcosa houses a mineral the company calls leucinite. According to Soltari's research, 1 kilogram of leucinite could power an entire city for a decade. Thanks to her career in ecology, Nitya is on the short list of people recommended to join the very first mission to Carcosa, Echelon 1. This crew is to be composed of a handful of researchers to establish a foundation on the planet for Echelons 2 and 3. Echelon 2 is an expedition group of over...
Yeah, I mean, we weren't watching a 33-minute video on this game. How good that video is.
1,000 workers tasked with setting up the leucinite mining operation, while a few hundred additional workers and colonists comprise Echelon 3. Nitya is initially torn on whether to join Echelon 1, as she could never return to Earth and would need to
33 minutes, I think better like have like Kinsey Reeves in it or something.
abandon all connections, including with her now husband Arjun. However, their relationship is greatly strained thanks to Arjun's alcoholism and aggressive tendencies, something he has inherited from his father. The reality of Arjun's situation is even more grim than Nitya knows. Arjun works in security for some of the more minor corporations alongside his partner Sebastian. Not only does this line of work have Arjun and Sebastian doing some unscrupulous deeds, but Arjun has been unfaithful to Nitya. While Sebastian has had a change of heart, he's realized that Arjun will continue his depravity and promises to quote-unquote do something to save Arjun from himself. What this means, or at the very least what Arjun interprets that as, is revealing his infidelity to Nitya, and in a rage, Arjun accidentally kills Sebastian. While Arjun has prevented Nitya from learning the truth, the guilt of Sebastian's death puts additional weight on their relationship, with Nitya ultimately choosing to join Echelon 1, leaving behind the sun pendant her husband gave to her as a child. The details of what specifically happens with the Echelon missions, as well as the order in which events occur, are hazy at best, but all three trips are definitively ill-fated. While the trio of missions are sent in quick succession, time operates differently on Carcosa thanks to an abnormal eclipse, and the crew of Echelon 1 are alone on the planet for years on end. While on Carcosa, Nitya connects
This is like a kind of a basic bitch story, huh? But there's really not much to it.
with Kira Varus, Echelon 1's technician, and the two fall in love. In a secluded part of the planet, Nitya plants the seeds of a banyan tree, a tradition that she inherited from Arjun and his family, the pair having one in their backyard back on Earth. This banyan tree, however, is for her and Kira to serve as a refuge for when they want to be alone. During this period, the crew's geophysicist Michael Wilde is the first to make contact with the Yellow Shore. What exactly the Yellow Shore is even hazier than what occurs to the doomed Echelon missions, but it is described in a text log as the Eye of Need, the God of Desires, the ceaseless feast of want. Think of it as an eldritch horror that exists outside time and space.
Yeah, I mean, I guess guess that's an interesting take. That he cheated on her with Sebastian, and she cheated on him with Katya. Oh my god, these guys are really... I mean, nobody's really a good guy, yeah. They all got the problems.
Feeding on the deepest aspirations of those caught in its trance. Micah opens up the others to the Yellow Shore, and through it, they are physically and psychologically transformed into godlike beings known as overlords.
I mean, he's trying to get rid of the evidence, so, I mean, from his point, I guess that makes sense.
Their avarice intensifying as they do so. By the time Echelon 2 arrives, centuries have passed, and the overlords
I mean, Nikki's like his stepsister, so, maybe he just couldn't bring it up anymore, right?
enslave the arriving workforce, wielding the power of the Yellow Shore to hypnotize them into thinking they too will ascend to godhood. They help build out a civilization, with the overlords also transforming them into monstrous creatures. However, the desires of each of the overlords only continue to grow, with multiple vying to be seated at the head of the table. Simultaneously, Nitya, who has become the priestess overlord, realizes that the king has become jealous of her popularity among their worshippers. This overwhelming jealousy in each and every direction among the pantheon plunges Carcosa into war, dooming the fledgling civilization, with each of the overlords ultimately either locked away, in exile, or in the king's case, fleeing to the Yellow Shore in order to avoid any challenges to his throne. At some point during these centuries, Nitya worked in secret. With each eclipse, her memories, and the memories of others on Carcosa, fade. Audio and text logs hint at this both being a side effect of the eclipse, but also an intentional desire for those horrified by what they've become. In an attempt to return to who she was before, she builds two machines. The first is the Constant, a seeming amalgamation of some of the minds of those that have died on Carcosa, potentially combined with elements from Echelon 1's primary unit, the supercomputer that accompanies each of the expedition groups, both to help lead them, but to also keep tabs on the crews for Soltari. Nitya built the Constant in order to help her build the Preserver, a device that utilizes a fraction of the power of the Yellow Shore to bring her back as a facsimile of her old self. With this tool, she is able to undo her transformation into the priestess somewhat, although she has been irrevocably changed nonetheless. The Constant also helps Nitya mask and lock away the path to the Yellow Shore, just in time for the arrival of Echelon 3. The third echelon once again arrives centuries after the second, the fires of the Carcosan Civil War now ash. Despite Nitya's attempts to cut the Yellow Shore off from future Soltari expeditions, its siren song still breaks through to some in the group. Between the paranoia created by the eclipse, the lack
I think it's funny that Nitya is like so smart, but this is like the dumbest plan.
of a colonial foundation, and the realization by this latest crew that hundreds of years have passed since the previous expedition, it doesn't take long for the members of Echelon 3 to turn on each other, with few surviving the conflict. While a millennium has passed on Carcosa, only a fraction of that time has occurred on Earth, with Soltari having lost communication with its three echelons. It preps a fourth. Echelon 4 is a small group composed of some researchers, but largely made up of a security detail known as Enforcers that includes Arjun, who had previously petitioned to join Echelons 2 and 3 and was likely denied due to his connection to Nitya. But now, Soltari is desperate. Soon after this latest expedition arrives on Carcosa, everything immediately goes to shit. Arjun is separated from the group, a number of others decide to go digging for the planet's secrets themselves, and one of the least experienced enforcers, Tarn, has become ensnared by the Yellow Shore, sabotaging their ships so they can never leave. Arjun makes it back to the remainder of the group via the Preserver, which he can access thanks to his connection to Nitya, although this realization is a mystery to him until much later into the game. The remnants of Echelon 4 have taken shelter in a space they dubbed the Passage, which you ultimately learn was built by Nitya as a safe space from the roaming monsters of Carcosa and the time dilation effects of the eclipse, although the Song of the Yellow Shore can still reach here. While Arjun feels it has only been hours since they landed on the planet, For those in the passage, days have passed. After the team's leader Sheridan takes out Tarn before he can attack Arjun, the Eternal Enforcer heads out into Carcosa under the guise that he wants to help any potential survivors from the previous Echelon missions. But really, he's looking for Nitya, whose voice he hears calling to him. Over the course of the game, Arjun's desperation to find his wife intensifies, while the rest of Echelon 4 spirals. The group gets its hands on the same data module from Echelon 2 that Echelon 3 also recovered, which reveals to both expeditions the monumental passage of time that has occurred in Carcosa between each crew's arrival. Their pilot Stack falls to the lure of the Yellow Shore, as does Sheridan, the latter taking out the former, with Arjun ultimately executing the commander. Two rogue members of the group, a Soltari executive Alab and another enforcer Lena, use Arjun in an attempt to reach the Yellow Shore themselves, with the latter of the pair killed by the latest in a long line of priestesses, created by the king after Nitya renounced her role. Ultimately, Arjun makes contact with the Constant and uses it to unlock access to the Yellow Shore. Here he confronts the king and takes the power for himself, believing he is deserving of it. He then undergoes the gruesome transformation into the monstrous monarch, drawn to the throne by Nitya as the priestess. What's important to understand is that this is not the real Nitya, and is instead the Yellow Shore tempting Arjun with what he wants. As Nitya says to him back on Earth in a flashback, quote, "You don't want me. You want the idea of me." The Yellow Shore has literally made Arjun's ideal version of Nitya, one that desperately needs their relationship and would be subservient to him in order to string him along. This visage of Priestess Nitya disappears, leaving the newly crowned king alone on his throne.
Kind of a weird cycle for him, because he didn't love her enough to stay faithful, but yet he's obsessed with her to go to this other planet and be motivated to get her back. It's, I mean, people really do this. It's not like this is necessarily a weird thought pattern, but I don't.
The camera pulls out to reveal that this is just one of an infinite number of outcomes. The imagery of a golden strand with a king sitting at its center, surrounded by an indefinite number of other golden strands. This is just the game's first ending, with Arjun ultimately materializing as his human self.
So we would have got that if I would have beat that, and then we would have had to play it again. So this is the better way to do this. I think I would have played another 33 hours of that game.
Pulled out of this outcome by the Preserver. He then follows a signal to the Shattered Descent, the location on Carcosa where Echelon 3 originally set up shop. This signal belongs to Kayla, the one member of Echelon 4 that wasn't drawn to the Yellow Shore. For her, it has been years since she has last seen Arjun, saying that Nitya contacted her over the radio to tell him to head to the banyan tree that is located in the Blighted Marsh, the one Nitya planted centuries prior for her and Kira. There, Arjun hears the voice of Kira, whose spirit is tied to the tree after the king destroyed her body as a punishment for Nitya's treachery. Kira reveals to Arjun that Nitya moved on from him and chose her, but the Enforcer still refuses to believe the truth. Kira pulls—
Well, this is totally a guy thing. She broke up with you for me. Well, no, she really likes me. I mean, they nailed that part.
him along a path that has Arjun both confronting the reality that Nitya moved on from him, but also that he feels deep guilt for killing Sebastian. Now, making the decision to be honest with himself, Arjun heads to go face the king once again, but this time turning down the power for himself. He passes onto a beach bathed in blue, claiming that he doesn't deserve anything more, but nevertheless wishes to see Nitya one last time, still clinging onto a small sliver of his desire. In that moment, the color of the light begins to switch over to yellow, and the transformation into the king begins. But before it can finish, he rips off the sun pendant that he first gifted Nitya all those years ago and tosses it into the water. The beach returns back to its blue state as the real Nitya appears. She chastises Arjun for following her to Carcosa, saying it was her dream and not his. Arjun apologizes for not having left her be, and the game closes with Nitya posing the question of what he'll choose to do next, as he is bathed in flashing red and blue lights, like those of a cop car he envisioned in the scene where he confronted the reality that he was responsible for Sebastian's death. To understand the reality of Saros, I latched onto a single data.
Yeah, that ending isn't any better. Most of the endings are kind of crappy. And it's open-ended, right? So I was like, oh, what is it gonna do?
Bank entry, which helps me connect all the disparate dots, or should I say orbs, to build a clearer picture. That databank entry revolves around Halcyon, the incredibly limited blue resource you find when playing the game that unlocks some of the more powerful upgrades you can obtain. There are a few key takeaways from Halcyon's databank entry. It has the ability to make the intangible tangible, it can unlock the dreams of those that come into contact with it, and those individual dreams from multiple sources may be interwoven into a quote-unquote crystalline matrix. What I think this means is that a lot of what is happening on Carcosa is manifested from within those that find themselves trapped on the planet and brought into actual physical space. This couldn't be more clear than with the eclipse itself. Prior to their arrival on Carcosa, the sun pendant that Nitya left behind, only for Arjun to bring it himself, obviously bears a striking resemblance to the Carcosan eclipse. On top of that, in order to prevent the transformation into the king in the game's second ending, it requires Arjun to relinquish said pendant. The sun is a big part of Arjun and Nitya's life before they ever set foot on the alien planet, with Arjun saying to Nitya as a child that, quote, the sun is forever. Therefore, it stands to reason that Carcosa's eclipse is made manifest by Arjun and Nitya's subconscious. Dreams are referenced numerous times by different characters.
Yeah, it's weird too because, like, again, like the first game, or I mean, I guess in Norway, but Returnal is a much better story, and it's even like less straightforward what happens exactly, but it's told in a better way. It's so weird that they decided to improve the story, and this is kind of where they ended up.
In the game, as well as in databank entries. In the flavor text of one, it reads, quote, we argued and we dreamed of dark places, of spindly hands, too many hands, bathed in yellow, grasping and taking, implying that the crew of Echelon 1 dreamed up their Carcosan civilization, and Halcyon brought it into reality. In the passage, not only can Arjun interact with the remaining members of Echelon 4, but also Sebastian. Sebastian on Carcosa being a manifestation of Arjun's subconscious is implied early on in the game, as he is never given his own databank entry. In the passage, Sebastian is separated from the rest of the crew, next to yet another banyan tree. Importantly, this part of the passage is bathed in blue light, while the rest of the location is doused in yellow. This is a good time to bring up the blue precipice. We know even less about the blue precipice than the yellow shore, but from what we do know, it seems to be its inverse. I've personally come to imagine them as two sides of the same coin. Take this audio log you discover, entitled In Blue, recorded by someone named Walker, Echelon 3's psychologist. Quote, they thought they'd seen the truth, the yellow shore, but I have stood upon the blue precipice, an opposite of their golden greed, an abandonment, absolute clarity, falling, no more struggle, it's accepting the real truth. The blue precipice is the location you reach when you abandon desire. Or is it just a state of mind? On a planet where reality is blended with the subconsciousnesses of those on it, it doesn't really matter, and in fact, that means it's both. Regardless, those that reach the blue precipice are free of the yellow shore's hypnosis, as we learn with Kayla, who has blue eyes in the final moments we chat with her, where she promises to protect future inevitable echelons that Soltari will send from the trance of the shore. Quote, "The shore could not reach her. She walked the edge of the precipice," explains Kira about Kayla when conversing with Arjun. The inverse of dreams are nightmares, and in Saros, Arjun can encounter areas called nightmare strands when stepping through a yellow portal. Importantly, when stepping into a nightmare strand, a symbol appears. A circle in the middle of a wavy line, mirroring the infinite golden threads we are shown in the final shot of the game's first ending. All of this, I believe, suggests that not only is time messed up on Carcosa to the point where its pace is altered, but also that time on the planet does not exist in a linear fashion, and that an infinite number of realities are ever shifting and occurring simultaneously. When we
I wouldn't have even caught the fact that there were other strands. Yeah, I mean, they didn't even look like the same strand, so interesting.
first learned that the crew of Echelon 1 became the overlords of Carcosa, it's heavily implied that that crew's commander, Arnold Delroy, became the king, but some reports hint at it being Micah, the first to hear the Song of the Yellow Shore, that claims the crown. Also, that song is one that comes from Nitya, as we discover in her hidden lab in the Carcosan Cathedral. Before any of the original Echelon members become intoxicated by the Yellow Shore, it's already manifested elements from them. In a hololog we witness in that same cathedral, we see Arnold Delroy proclaiming himself king, while bestowing titles on the rest of the crew. After dubbing Nitya the priestess, she refuses to serve him, and right before we see Delroy attack her, he proclaims, quote, "The sun is forever," which shocks Nitya, right before the hololog cuts off. Also, Arnold Delroy, AD? Arjun Devraj? Did this character even exist, or was he manifested by Nitya's memories of her husband? Was he real but infused with Arjun's obsessive tendencies before Arjun ever set foot on Carcosa? My response to those questions is, on a planet where the subconscious is made manifest and time is occurring in a non-linear fashion, all answers are not only possible, but true. There is so much more to dive into regarding the story of Saros. I haven't even touched on all the biblical references in the game. In fact, there's a good argument to be made that Carcosa is purgatory and the Blue Precipice and Yellow Shore are simply interpretations of heaven and hell. But let me know what your thoughts are on the story of Saros in the comments. Is there anything big I missed? How did you interpret its characters and ending? I'm excited.
Yeah, it's pretty unsatisfying. Especially all the stuff that you don't know that you're supposed to interpret it. And then, which means you have to read through logs. And then, I wasn't doing that in the game. Oh no, and none of the stuff really made sense. I mean, everybody talked in riddles. So, yeah, I mean, God, this is just very hard to recommend this game. Especially over Returnal, which, you know, at least in my memory, is a much better game. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll play a little bit more of that on PC and see if that's true. But yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I hope that developers don't lose their jobs over this, you know, because the sales in the game are a little disappointing. You know, I want them to kind of have another shot, but definitely don't do this, what they did. This is not good. You know, I don't know who walks away from this going, yeah, that was cool. I just, you know, and maybe it's too much to expect a bunch of nerds to write a good story. You know, it's one thing to like write a good one, and it's another thing to recognize a bad one. Those are two different skill sets. Yeah, no. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's the last of Saros. We'll see. I mean, because I don't plan on playing it ever again. I will play Returnal though, instead, and get to the end of that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. Sorry we couldn't make it to the end legitimately, but it wouldn't have been worth it. Don't buy this game unless you hate yourself. I'll see you at the next stream. Let's play some TFT. Watch this game off of our palette.